One of the things I like so much about you is that you go where the good work is, and you've gone from studio films to independent films to TV. I mean, you've gone from Blackish to People, Places, Things to The Elder Son, one of my favorite things you've done.
You saw The Elder Son.
Y-
I love that. No, it was originally called The Optimist. It was based on a Russian play.
yeah. How'd that end up coming to you? Talk about it, because you end up, again, you do so much interesting work because obviously it's about, you always are in these communities and these things you do. We see it in Support the Girls. We can see it coming up in Hate You Give, going back to your first film, Best Man. You live in these communities when you do these movies, and that seems to be like the kind of the through line through your career.
Yeah. I don't know that originally it wasn't conscious. Obviously, when you're starting, you just are like, I want to work. So probably some of the blessing is what I didn't get, I mean, I auditioned to go and get everything, good or bad. I didn't have really discretion, but I just read a script, and if I have a response to it, and sometimes they're small, I don't know, wherever I can find some humanity, you know what I mean? That's what I like to do in the storytelling or in the character, and working with people who are kind of excited to, show like people in a different light. And The Optimist, I thought it was interesting that it was a Russian play, that it was actually a Russian director, and that they wanted to cast the character.
You're working with Rade in the movie too.
Oh yeah, Rade, who I'm a big fan of, and
Another crazy man.
yeah. And I was just actually shocked that they went black with the character. You know what I mean? And didn't change anything for that. Yeah. So sometimes it's just like being put in a space that's not the usual space, but trying to authentically fill the space without making that an issue.
Okay, talk a little bit too about People, Places, Things. I like that so much too, and you're kind of like the center of gravity in this thing. You have so much common sense that you can't do things that maybe you should do because the character has so much common sense.
Yeah, I think I've done that a lot. I do it a lot in my own life, where I kind of make decisions that sometimes should be heartfelt and emotional, and I make them from a mental place. I have a Gemini moon. Someone told me that was the problem.
You have to explain it to me because I don't know anything about astrology.
No, I have a friend who's astrologer. Your moon is like it's like that's the, Anyway, your moon is what you are emotionally, and I'm a Gemini, which is a dual sign, and it's an air sign. So, yeah, in a space that would normally be great for like an emotional sign, or a water sign. So it's kind of like not the best. So I tend to deal with emotional things in life from a headspace, as opposed to, anyway, it just messes a lot of shit up, basically. And when I went to an astrologer, and I was like, oh, that explains a lot. And so, so I really did identify that with that character. And again, Jim Strauss directed it, and I loved that, he also, that wasn't written for any race. Yeah. The daughter wasn't. And I kind of just liked that he was like, well, it's New York City. And there it was, but it wasn't a part of the storyline. It was just like, but she was also, and I liked their connection, between the two of them. I'm a big fan of his anyway, a big fan of his. So, I think sometimes it's just, and then I think Jim Strauss, I like, again, his storytelling, and I like his writing. You never know what a movie's going to be. You know what I mean? I've seen great scripts turn into not great movies.
We got a couple minutes. What would one of those be?
Well, I'm not saying I've been in them. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm saying there's scripts that I have read that I haven't even maybe gotten, and then it's come to the screen, and I'm like, oh, glad I didn't get that one. That didn't necessarily turn out. I mean, I'm sure people say the same thing about mine. You know what I mean?
No.
But,
well, I would never press on that until later in the conversation.
Yeah, later on.
I'll go back to that.
No, it's subjective, so yeah.
But you can say the same thing about your character in Support the Girl. She kind of is torn between the heart and the head because she probably should have left this place a long time ago. She, in effect, says that, but she's so committed to being the right person, to being this person who's like the sort of the center of common sense, who can lead these young women to the right places and protect them from themselves. Is that what you liked about that script too?
Yeah, and I felt like she was a little bit flawed in her own codependent way. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the person that's always the most helpful, there's something self-serving in it, which I felt like she was like, I'm a really horrible person at the end. And it wasn't about that. It was just she had a need in her to be needed. I just liked that it was just real people really doing the best they can. There wasn't like a storybook ending. I mean, they made a real lateral move. You know, to go from double whammies to man cave. It's not, you know, but that's what life is most of the time, right? You don't make it's not like a big giant, like, you don't get a light bulb and then, I mean, some people do, but you don't necessarily always have a light bulb moment that leads to an immediate, you know, quantum leap. And so I felt like, and I liked them all, actually. And then I didn't know that world. And Andrew Bujalski was he was a person I would have never expected to kind of peer in or write about that world. But
Or to even deal with race, because he hadn't really done it in his movies before.
yeah, and it was interesting that he made her black, because she wasn't black in the script either. No. I mean, I just go by the description, but, you know, usually when it's black, it says
Black.
African American, yeah.
Or
But
sassy,
yeah,
or some one of those
politically
adjectives.
correct. It'll say African American, which is, I'm fine with that word too. But yeah, it didn't. And so then I realized, you know, he didn't have a race written really next to any of them.
Well, your first scene is kind of interesting because we get to see exactly how vulnerable she is at the very beginning of the movie, don't we?
Yeah, it's weird. I was so used to, you know, sometimes you know, I was actually shooting Girls Trip when I read Support the Girls. So when I read it, I kept waiting for her dark side. I was like, she stole the money. There's no real this. Oh, she's going to be sleeping with the husband. It's like my brain.
You haven't seen enough indie movies. That never happens. They can't afford to do that.
I know. And I was like, oh, no, Lisa's just a good. I thought that when she came home, maybe she was going to find Shayna in bed. But that wasn't it. And then I kind of love that, too, that there wasn't a big thing. It just was about, you know, good people, bad choices, you know.
It's also a movie about
Living
somebody
truth.
living from hour to hour almost. I mean,
Yeah,
she
all
couldn't
the
see a
time.
future. She really gets to see,
Yeah.
deal with whatever was happening at the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, just living, you know, the husband. I think it's trying to just balance and juggle, you know, making the most of what you have, which, you know, the food was good, though. I really did like.
Catering?
No, the food on the movie sucked. It was an indie, but we worked next to a Twin Peaks, and that Twin Peaks.
That's hilarious. She worked next to a place.
Yeah, it was great. They let us shadow. They came in. I got to shadow the manager. They dressed the girls up. They got to work and, like, you know, wait tables, and we were there every day. I was like, oh no, we've turned into. And then what's crazy is we had people like, can we try it? Because they saw Double Whammies. Double Whammies. The place we used to be an actual restaurant, and it was closed down. So, and it was across, not even the street, it was across the parking lot. So then that was our location, and so we had the sign up, because, you know, we had the car wash, so we had exteriors. So it looked like a restaurant, and so people were coming in to actually, they wanted to try, you know, they're like, well, we've been at Twin Peaks for years. Let's go over here to Double Whammies. And we were like, no, we're not. We're not a real restaurant. And so we had we got a lot of background, and they were like, but we'll come do background.
It's
So that
kind of
was great.
perfect to have a place that's like the place you're actually filming in. We should say these restaurants are kind of Hooters type places.
Yeah, they're Hooters type. Yeah. But these Twin Peaks had some, I mean, I never had fried pickles, and they had some tasty meals, you know.
Oh,
And I stopped noticing the breast, honestly. By round 3, you know, by like maybe my 3rd or 4th time, I just, you know, I don't know. I just was like, I don't know. I just stopped seeing it. It's a strange thing. Because at first you're just like, but they're trained to be great. Yeah, they are. And they're really trained to be kind to women. So they actually, if there were a husband and a wife in a restaurant, they would cater to the wife first, because they're trained that if she doesn't like it, the likelihood that the couple will go back is really slim. So they will always go to her and be like, what can I get you? You know what I mean? Like, she gets the most attention. And I was like, that's smart.
It's like you guys absorb some of that because we get to hear Lisa talk about the philosophy of the place, and she
Yeah.
has this list of rules, and which she kind of violates all the time. But she has a list of rules, and it really is about this kind of flirtation that's not really a flirtation, but also about objectification of women as commerce.
Yeah, well, I think every woman alive knows that, no offense, men have egos and
Don't look at me when you say that.
No.
'Cause I'm here to serve you.
I know. But yeah, and then we serve you guys back by catering to that portion of yourself. You know what I mean? I think outside of the workplace, I think women do it at home. You know what I mean? Like, wow, honey, that was smart. And it probably wasn't that smart, Or maybe she knew that already, but,
I've never met that black woman, but anyway.
I know, but, I think that women, so I think it's a matter of what will make him feel. I remember I went to this church and was it a female pastor?
What kind of
It
church
might have
was
been a
it?
male. It was just a regular church, but I remember it was a thing on marriage. Obviously, I'm not married. the Gemini moon again, but I was like, well, let's just in case it happens, let me see how the married people make it work. But it said, look, and he was giving a breakdown. He wrote a book, and it says, notice in the Bible, it says, to the men, love your wives, and to the women, respect your husbands. And I thought about that a long time, and I was like, oh, so men need that. They feel, black women, men, they need to feel that respect, just like we need to feel that love and nurturing. So I think when I say the ego, I don't mean from the vainest place. I mean from what might, I'm trying to say this well.
Yeah, don't do.
But
yeah,
like, like men like to hear, they like to feel like, oh, my woman thinks I'm smart. My woman, respects my decision. We know that. You guys like it. And, we like to be, like, baby, you look beautiful. Like, we like you to notice our hair, when it's like a different. And I don't mean this in negative ways. So, yes, I think for us at Double Whammies, like, like if you make us like, ha, and she's like, you're so cool, you're such a badass. But, like, was he really? No. But, you know what? It didn't matter because that's what it's about. It's about providing pleasantries. You know what I mean? And, like, something in life that makes us feel good.
When I was watching the movie, I thought two things. First of all, that this is maybe where Candy could have ended up, like 20 years after The Best Man, where she kind of realized I can't be that woman
Can't
anymore.
strip anymore.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Or I can't pretend to be an innocent or
right.
like these guys when I don't, or be in these little parties with nothing but a bunch of men. But also, it made me think about, in some ways, it almost feels like a metaphor for acting. At some point, you've got to like kind of be flirty or make these people think that they want what you want, or you're really just trying to get the job. It really felt almost like a metaphor for entertainment.
I think it's a metaphor for probably female existence in general. You know what I mean? I think whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I was thinking women have an interesting and it's like a tightrope. You know what I mean? You never want to do too much that you're like coming on, but it's enough. But there is a lot in I mean, especially I often wonder what was it like to have lived in a matriarchal society. But in a patriarchal one, you know what I mean, those themes exist. And even if it's not you, like collectively it's in our society. Collectively it's in our consciousness. And so whether we were purposefully or like it's just what you notice, what you see, you know what I mean, in that, and not even to try to get what you want, even if it's just trying to be heard or understood, to get you to hear my point. I have to like gauge, so it's like I don't come off too strong, I don't come off too masculine. What can I do so that he doesn't turn off, so that he can hear without feeling that I'm trying to be dominating? I mean, I think that's always a thing that women are always trying to balance and, and still maintain, who we are and not feel like we've lost some sort of principle.
It's so interesting because I was thinking about that in relationship to Girls Trip, which does feel, it's, again, I think of you as being somebody who lives in these communities,
Yeah.
and those are strong friendships, and you and Jada's characters are kind of matriarchal in that way. I mean, you're basically kind of leading the you're really trying to be, again, for you, the center of common sense. And it runs through so many of these movies you've done. And I almost feel like someone like Malcolm, at this point, turns you for that because you guys have worked together so many times.
Yeah, we've met on, obviously, Best Man, which was like, I think, listen, I realize in every role I got, I swear it's always the wife that casts you.
No kidding.
I think so.
Talk about that.
I think men take those tapes home and go, honey, what do you think? And I think a wife goes, I don't like her. And I don't think they mean that from a bad way. I think they're talking about energetically and what would serve them.
And how they respond to the movie as an audience member in some ways,
No,
right?
I mean before you get the movie. Okay. I mean before you get the movie, when men look at casting, when they look at tapes, sure. And women may do the same thing. I think they go home for certain things, and I think that they make the ultimate decision, the men, but I think their partner's input is gigantic. And so when I met Malcolm Lee, and then finally I met Camille, his wife, she was like, I loved you in it. And I was like, I knew it was the wife. She was like, I saw your tape. And I was like, Malcolm, that's her. And I had messed up really bad. And I think...
What happened?
I was trying to, because you know what? I went into that audition.
That was one of the first things you did.
It was my first movie. And they made me go in. Actually, it was actually cast with another actress. And and the actress kept changing her mind and going back and forth because she didn't know if she wanted to be I know. I know. I want to say who, but
I want you to say who.
I know. Maybe by the end I'll just drop it.
Let's get some drinks up here, shall we? Just to loosen this up a little
anyway,
bit.
she was it was, and so she was going back and forth like she wasn't sure if she wanted the part. So when they got to they were casting it in L.A. When they got to New York, they were looking for someone.
You were living in New York at the time.
I was living in New York, and we did the audition part, like the script, and then they narrowed that down to the dancing. And I was like, I can't dance. And I was in class, and one of the girls in my acting class, she was a stripper. She said, you don't have to do anything. And I've told this story. You just have to turn around and just slap your ass. They won't know. And I was like, that's it?
I feel so used, but anyway.
Yeah, she did. She said, that's it. That's all you have to do. So I went, and I was like, okay. And I got to the audition, and I had drank a little. It's amazing. I had drank remember Alizé?
Puffy wants to hear you remember Alizé.
I remember I had a bottle of Alizé, but
it was on every subway in Manhattan.
Right. It did the twist top, but I was still sober. I was like, how am I still sober after a bottle? And my boyfriend at the time, I was like, well, wait right here, because I don't know if this is going to be long. So I went upstairs, and like the girls in the waiting room, they were doing moves. They were like, you choreographed? I mean, they were choreographed. And I was like, all I had was one move. And she was like, I'm doing this. And they were talking, and they had music, and I was like, this is not good. And so I went in, and I just said hello, and I grabbed the chair and just turned around, and they started playing the song, and I just looked back. That's all I did. And then Sam Kitt was the producer. He said, stop the music. And he said, can you do anything else? And I said, yes. And I picked up my jacket and was like, thank you. And I left. I know. And then they called, and then I was like, whatever, I don't get a bunch of jobs. My agent won't think this is any different. I didn't think that they would even get a call. I thought they would get a call that said, we're going in a different direction. So for me, and then when I bent over, like I had a little tight dress on, my boob popped out, so I turned to cover because I didn't want the men to see it. That's what Cammie said. She was like, it was so cute. But I was, And then I think the dance, whatever it was, she said it was endearing. And then I think the next day they called and said she walked out of the audition. We want to cast her, but we're afraid she can't do the dance. And then they were like, we're going to hire a choreographer. If the choreographer feels that she can teach her, then we'll hire her. Yeah, it was great.
Before you know that movie, you don't dance a lot in it anyway.
In that movie?
Yeah.
No, but then I was dancing with real strippers, and the girl was like, my girls are going to kill you. You're awful. And I was like, what? She was like, I don't believe you at all. And then I was like, scared, because the lady who taught me was like a Broadway dancer. And she was like, that's none of what you're doing is stripper stuff. It's not dropped in. Like, you're going to suck on screen. This is like 2 days before I was supposed to start, I swear. And I was like, so she was like, come with me. She was a stripper manager, and she made all the costumes. She managed strippers, and she was a stripper. She was totally horrible to me. But
it sounds like it, yeah.
No, but she was great. She was great, because she looked at me and she goes, you keep sticking your boobs out and you don't have breasts like that. She's like, you have to work with what you have. And I remember being like, she's like, that's not even your move. So she took me at about maybe 11 o'clock at night to her apartment in Brooklyn, which was all mirrored. Why did I go? That's the bad part of it. When you're an actor, you will do anything to find the truth. You'll be like, I'm going into a heroin den on Thursday. I just want to see.
Well, it was nice knowing you. Good luck in the den.
No, but she had a row of like clothes, and she said, try pick out an outfit, and then she said, you're gonna dance in that mirror till you turn yourself on. And then she said, all right, now I'm gonna be different. This is what she said. I had a full choreographed dance that never happened. And she said, okay, now I'm the guy who pays your rent. Like, I come every week and I pay your rent, do your dance. And she's like,
so this is character work she's giving you.
Yeah, and she's like, now I'm the guy who you think is cute and you actually would date, which is what Harold was for me. So anyway, we did that, and she's like, all right, now you're fine. So then that's why there's not much dancing and it's more look. She was like, they don't come to see us. Then I met a lazy stripper. She she literally sat by the pole. She was like, you ain't got to do all that moving. And I met the most interesting character. She just kind of danced by the pole. She was like, I don't do all of that. My tips are the same. So that was an interesting research project for my 2 scenes.
Yeah, I feel like I've been going to all the wrong clubs in my life. But what I will say about that movie is that it's all attitude. And it's almost like with your mentor, if you will, she basically was sort of daring you to do it, and you brought that attitude with it, so you didn't have to do anything.
Yes, exactly.
And guys in a room like that are so scared anyway, because Candy's basically judging them all.
Yeah, she totally changed that. She flipped it, and I think what happened is I was so focused on dancing, and she was like, "This is," I'll never forget her though. But she was great, and she actually made my costumes. She sewed too. she designed costumes and because she managed her girls, and she was a dancer.
You have to write this movie because this information you got is too good not to live somewhere. You really do. And it's one of the things I was kind of wondering, because you work with so many writer-directors. I mean, you do that a lot, almost exclusively, as a matter of fact. And I wonder if you'd ever thought about writing yourself, because you work with so many writers.
I have wrote a few things. One sold but never got made. And now I'm actually writing something now that I'm really excited about, and hopefully it'll go. It's hard sometimes with the time. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't have the time because I may be prepping for a role, but this one, it's, well, nope, I just lied. I actually didn't write the script. We wrote the treatment, and we wrote the, it would be for streaming, and so we wrote that part, but like as far as writing the episode, and then she would write the pilot.
So it's a series.
It's a series. I don't know if it'd be it might just be an 8-parter, but it's really good.
Is this the heroin den you went to?
No, there's no drugs in this. There's no drugs, but it's just, I can't wait till I can talk about it. It's going to be good.
I can't wait either, but there's so many things you're not talking about here. Let's move on to something else you don't want to talk about. Because I think what's so interesting about this is that in some of these parts you play, these women do have a kind of confidence that people end up responding to. And just thinking about that, for the young women and Support the Girls, they're responding to the fact that you're incredibly confident with them. And people, places, think there's the confidence you have too. But there's some point in these movies we get to see that confidence disappear, and I just wonder if that's one of the things you tend to respond to in scripts as well, sort of stripping away. We get to see who this person really is.
Yeah, I love that. I think in real life, we walk with a lot of confidence, but there's always there's always a portion of us that we're not so confident about. Like I'm confident in a lot of areas, and then in a couple of areas I'm less confident. And I think sometimes people think that if you're confident in one thing, that you're a confident person. And I realized that my friend was like, Regina, I don't know if this is true, but she was like, listen, I just saw this talk, and this woman said, when you're dating men, and I don't know if it's all men, but I knew specifically black men. She's like, you have to treat them. You can't argue. You have to treat them as if they've just come home from a war. Yeah, like full battle. That men, that when they go out into the world and then they come home, they've just, and so that made me think, well, men walk around not men, people, whatever. Oh, right. People may seem like they're really, like you date someone and you think that first person you meet that's confident that's who you're dating or who you're with or who they are, and it's a slice of who they are. And so I like characters because that are like that, because that's, that is the part that you identify with. So if someone is coming on screen and they're like perfect, it's hard to be moved by that because you can't empathize with that journey. You know what I mean? And so it's just interesting and compelling because, I think we're all able, I know I have that space in myself, areas where I feel great and then areas where I feel much less great.
Well, that's certainly a big part of the performance, I think, actually the trajectory in Girls Trip. But also what you're talking about, too, is kind of the difference between actors, if you pardon the expression, character actors and movie stars, where movie stars just want you to believe that thing that they are, and actors really want you to find want to find the truth in it, so we recognize parts of ourselves in it.
Yeah, that's acting's hard, like memorizing. Sometimes I'm like, oof, what is that? And I have to, everybody's process is different for me. I have to read stuff over and over so that I have to read it over and over because every time I read it, I hear something differently from my character or the other character. Yeah, like it's like, I think of a script kind of like a text. You kind of insert what a text is, which is why texting is so bad. So just to make sure I'm understanding it, I have to read all the parts because I can learn something by the way the other, I'm like, oh, I missed that. So I have to read it over and over and over. So it like really drops down before I start memorizing it, before I get off book. Because then if I memorize it in a way that it might become rote and now I'm just saying a line that doesn't have the, meaning. So anyway, that in the early mornings and stuff, sometimes it's, arduous in its own way. So then I have to feel like, well, what am I learning? What is the experience that I'm going to get to have? Sometimes the experience is just fun. Sometimes the experience is working with somebody brilliant who you've always wanted to work with. Sometimes it's the script. Sometimes it's the character's journey. There's so many reasons, but, when you're going to do like Support the Girls where you're up every day and you're carrying a movie, for the director who's been up for months before you and the writer who's been writing for years before you, I think before you say yes, you have to feel like you can give them the commitment to their project, to their words, so that before it hits a screen, it's not, I feel like that with television, like everything. So I won't commit to something if I don't feel like I can give you me. Or, and not me, take the time to do the work, so that you are. And if I suck at it, that's okay, but I won't come into it lazy or taking, what you've done for granted. Not okay to suck for them, but I'm just saying, how something turns out is how it turns out, but not for it to turn out for a lack of importance.
God, there's so much to ask about that because, first of all, it sounds like what you're saying is you kind of keep saying it, or reading it over and over again until you find a way, or you find that the character makes sense to you.
Yeah, or I find a way in. Yeah.
Because you're saying it, and on the page, that character is, especially the first time you read it, is an abstraction. It's not a real person. And you're reading it, you're keeping reading it, and it sounds like you're saying you don't want to make a decision about it. You just want to keep saying it until you finally hear it in your head in a way that makes sense for that person to say it.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like Support the Girls didn't. Lisa didn't have an accent in the script.
No, I was going to ask you about that accent.
Yeah, no, but every time I read her, I heard an accent. And so I went to Andrew and was like, can I do it with an accent? I can't hear her without an accent. And he was like, really? She doesn't sound like you? I was like, no, she doesn't sound like me. Even though people say I have an accent. But I don't have...
I hear it. You're from...
You
from,
do?
yeah.
Do you hear my accent?
First of all, I'm from Mississippi, so I can hear anybody who's sort of from the South. And you're sort of from the South.
Am I?
D.C.'s not the South.
I mean, like, technically, but...
Watch this.
But
Yes, ma'am,
it's
whatever
not-
you say. I never
yeah,
argue with
no.
black women. Yes, ma'am, you are right. It's America.
No, I mean, it is the South, technically. But, some people can hear. But D.C. has its own specific accent. But, yeah, I just remembered that she didn't sound like me. From the first time I read it, I heard her voice, ironically.
It's funny because you can kind of hear her confidence going away sometimes. Sometimes at the end of a line, she'll go up. Mm-hmm. At the end of the line, like she's looking for somebody to agree with her, like leading, she was very subtly leading. Was that in there too? Did you hear that all the time, or that kind of going up like it's a question at the end of the line sometimes?
Yeah.
She does it a lot.
Oh, I don't, you know what? Once you're doing, I don't remember what she does. I don't, it just, once she drops in, the character drops in, then she drops in, and then I don't remember it. I don't remember scenes. It's so awful. It's such an experience. Yeah, I don't remember.
So once you're done with it, you're done with it? Is it kind of, you just kind of got
No,
out
I
of your
don't remember
system?
it when I'm shooting it. I don't. No. After we wrap, I don't. No, after we shoot it, I don't remember. To the point where they have to tell me what I did. Like I won't necessarily. I'll go, wait, so what is it? They'll say, do what again? And I'll be like, well, wait, what'd I do? I don't know. Because I'm not in my head. By that point, you want to know the lines, so that it's just, I don't know.
So you can get the lines out. You're not worried about
Yeah,
the
so that you
dialogue.
can live it, and then if it's emotional or, Lisa was always thinking about a million things, so I don't remember. But, yeah, and I don't watch it. It's very hard to watch yourself.
Has it always been like that for you? It's hard to watch.
Well, yeah, it used to be hard to watch because it was like, I missed a moment, or a choice, or wow, there was a moment right there. Oh, I hear it differently. Now it's just hard because I was like, shit, my ass is getting old on that screen. So now it's hard to watch for different reasons.
Well, you look great and your hair looks terrific, by the way. So I just thought to get back to that. But
thank you. But it is, with everything in high definition, and then I like having my expression, so then I don't want to do any work to my face because I actually love a woman's
expressiveness.
Well, I just love a woman's face. I love, life on a face and time on a face, but that doesn't mean I love seeing it on mine. I just know how I feel when I see it on other people. And I kind of love when I see a woman's face be. So then if I know I love it on other people, then I know that's what I love. But, there's always a temptation to be like, if I could get right there. So then I just don't watch because it keeps me, I'm like, I can't do that. And it's only going to change more, so it's not like I'm going to. So I watch it once, though. I do watch it once for press.
Okay. Well, it looks like to me you haven't changed a day since The Best Man, but that's just a black man saying something to a black woman. Anyway, I guess what I want to say too is that I just like the way you pay attention. And we were just talking before we came up here. You got to work with somebody who was one of my favorite actors and one of the best guys in the world, Fred Molina on Law and Order.
Yeah.
And you could just sort of see the way you were paying attention to him.
Oh, he was like watching a class. I think Fred must have had a photographic memory. He could literally come in and look, and I mean, it's interesting because I always knew he was incredibly talented, but there's a brilliance there, and because he's not a quote-unquote movie star, I think sometimes people miss it, but every time he has a performance, he's so dropped in. He's probably one of my favorite human beings in the world too. I mean, he's so incredibly.
You think about how many villains he's played, and he's such a decent guy. He's got the biggest heart.
He's got the biggest heart in the world, and his wife is incredible as well. And she was an amazing actress in her own right, and they're just great. My friend, they invited us over for Thanksgiving, so me and my friend Shonda went, and we had like 2 Thanksgiving dates. So we went. I was like, "We'll go by Fred's for a little bit, and we leave." And they were all English, British, but they were so black. because they were sitting there, but they had a different food. Like, I was like, they have Brussels sprouts. You know what I mean? I was used to, like, the black Thanksgiving. Like, I was like, well, where are the yams? You know, you got some greens? And they were like, we've got Brussels sprouts. I was like, no,
That's
I mean,
green, yes, to them.
Yeah, it was a green, and I meant, like, green greens. And
I know. Where are you from
yeah,
again?
Yeah, Collards,
South.
of course.
Yes, yes,
And
ma'am.
my mother's from Georgia. So we went and we ate, and the meal was actually lovely. I was like, well, it's great because we'll have 2 different meals. And then we stayed like 45 minutes. And then I was like, we're going to have to go. And they were like, y'all are going to just eat and run? I mean, they called us on it so hard that I was like, it's like something I would have said. And I was like, no. So we stayed another hour. Because once she was like, you can't just eat and run. And they said it with an accent, too. They were very...
And she is black. So
yeah, I mean... Who, the wife?
No. I mean, you're black. So
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, yeah. They knew that, too. And then... But Fred is great. They're great. He's a great... And he's just... You know, he was at work early. It was, you know, his professional ethic was also incredible to watch too. You know, with his humility, with his resume, and he still treated it as his first job.
And he's also respectful to everybody on the set.
Incredibly respectful and kind and warm. I had a ball working with him. Like, we laughed every day. We used to do this thing, and I was like, Fred. He's like, how was it? And I was like, that was awful, Fred. And I'd say, you need to mime it. So whatever the line was, we'd mime it. So you'd be like, I'd say, the line is, I'm angry. So what are you going to do? And he'd be like, I'm angry. We'd mime every word. Because you're in that courtroom forever. Yes. I used to be like, I'm going to be here till I die. And then it got canceled. So God was like, no, you won't. But I was like, Law and Order is never going to get canceled.
That's right. That's one of the few that did get. But it was also on Saturday night, which is a weird night to put it. Like they're trying to bury it.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't work. But I'm so grateful for it because of Fred.
And Corey Stoll. I mean, it's a great cast of people on that show.
Oh, I loved Corey. Yeah, he was great. Yeah, he was also incredible to watch. I mean, the cast, our guest stars. I mean, we had an incredible crew. You know what I mean? No, that portion was amazing. We had nice trailers. Theirs were nicer than mine. I was always visiting. Did you knock on my door? They were like, Regina, you know we knock on your door. Come on in here. I just wanted to get in somebody else's nice trailer. I was like, these are nice.
But I want to get back to you working with writer-directors. And, I mean, you're probably one of the few people to be directed by 2 Wayans in your lifetime.
Oh, yeah. I was double Wayanned.
What was your first meeting with Keenan like for Scary Movie?
Keenan, I had just gotten to L.A., and I never thought of myself as, like, funny. So, the people think I did stand-up. No, I've never...
But I just thought... I know you didn't do stand-up.
I mean, yeah, but funny, like, people are funny, but not specifically, like, where people are like, oh, are you a comedian? I hadn't thought of it like that. Okay. So...
was that intimidating, meet with him for that reason? Because
No, because when I read the script, I was like, oh, it's just... For me, whether it's a dramatic character or a comedic character, it's just a character. So I'm going to do the same thing. So comedies I read over and over. Then I can hear the voice. And then once I hear the voice, I can do the improv.
Well, first of all, she's so loud.
She's so loud. Well, once they said it was a
that
parody.
Loud on the page? Did she seem that loud to you as you were reading it?
Actually, she did. And apparently I was wrong about that. I actually did not get that part originally. That part was actually, it was actually Christina Milian. So they wrote the part to be prissy. My interpretation was that she was loud and like, it was a parody. So I was like, oh, so then it's going to be a parody. So the black girl, so then I'm going to make her extra. So but theirs was the prissy girl in there. So I really wasn't, actually Anna wasn't cast either. I think Anna was originally Selma Blair. And then,
that's right, she was.
Yeah. And then the studio, they were like, you know, then they cast me. So when I met with Keenan, I was great. Well, I had to pre-read back then, so I met with casting. So then I went to the casting director, and then they're like, we want you to read for Keenan. And then I read for Keenan like 2 or 3 times. And I was a huge fan of like Living Color and, like I'm gonna get you sucker, all their stuff, don't be a menace. So, excuse me, my Nubian princess. Move to the side and tap that white queen right there. I love that movie so much.
That's so funny. It's so funny. But,
yeah, it was just great.
What's funny though, because there are
Message.
Oh my God, yes. But what I liked so much about that character is that it's really big and it could seem kind of broad, but you played it like it was a real person who was just loud, who just couldn't.
Yeah.
Her voice was just louder than she was, and at a certain point, you kind of.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is how do you make her broad, but then ground her so that she's not. So she's not a caricature, even though Brenda was crazy. But I had so much fun. So the great thing about working with Keenan, and that was right after Love and Basketball, so nothing had really come out. But the great thing, actually nothing had come out. The great thing, so I had no movie credits, and so even when
you had a bunch of stuff come out about the same time. You're going from Best Man, Love and
Best Man
Basketball,
came out, and then Love and Basketball, and then Scary Movie. So they were kind of like, well, who is she? And it was the first comedy. Bless you. It was my first comedy, and so Keenan's great because he's kind of like he lets you improv if it's funny. Like he's not like he was probably working with him first probably set the tone for everything that I've done comedically. Yeah. Because he was encouraging of that. You know what I mean? So all the stuff in the movie theater that we got, candid camera, like he let me ad lib. So, I mean, Keenan he let the camera go. Now, I was new, so I didn't know about matching because when you're doing plays, you don't match. So I think I was an editing nightmare. But he didn't care, you know what I mean? He still let it go. He let it go. And he's so...
He wants energy, first of all.
Yeah, and that scene was a separate scene that was supposed to be Marlon's character's cousin that came to visit. And he takes her to the movie and she's loud. And then there was Brenda. So what they did was they gave me that part because my take on... They were like, oh, that'd be funny, the hood girl. Even though that was my take on... Actually, my name was Brandy. Brandy was her name, but then the real Brandy said no because she had just been in Scream, so it made sense. Because it wasn't really, we weren't making fun of her, so we wanted to make sure that it didn't look like it. But so then they combined the characters, and they made the cousin and Brenda the same person. So then I was able to be Brenda, my version of Brenda.
Yeah, but so often in those kinds of movies you'll see, and this is obviously where your talent comes in, but also his belief that you could do it, it's so big that while you're laughing at it, you're kind of taken out of the movie, you don't buy it. But she seemed like a character to me. Not a character, she seemed like a person to me is what I mean to say, and not a character.
Yeah, she was my aunt. I got an aunt, God rest her soul, who used to act just like that. Kind of, yeah. She was at my graduation. I loved her so much. She was like... She was at my college graduation, and she looked at my mom, and she said, there's a lot of people here whose last name is cum laude. God bless her. God bless her.
I've never met her, but I love her already,
so
I can say.
Well, she's gone. She's gone. But, yeah, she was famous. She was categorically amazing, loving, and inappropriate. Like my mom was like in the hospital and the nurse wouldn't give her the information. And I walked to the back and I was like, what's going on? And she looked at me and she said, Gina, I'm about to floor this bitch. Now the nurse is standing right there and I was like, it's okay, Aunt Isabel, I'm gonna talk to her. She was like, 'cause she won't tell me. She's just... I loved her so much. She was crazy. Oh, God. My uncle was Russian, and she was like, I wonder if she's going to be in such a hurry to get to hell. I don't know how they stayed married. She had one-liners for days. But anyway, but she's also incredibly kind and wonderful and, and smart. You know what I mean? And she was a teacher like Brenda became in the third
One. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Is that where that came from? Oh my God.
Yeah, well, she could never teach in schools now. They would have removed her.
Or she would have killed somebody.
Yeah, no, in today's she wouldn't survive. But back then, when you could be a little more vocal with the children.
And you had to be authoritarian.
And
You were allowed to be that.
Yes, you were allowed it. Yeah, that's when she was a teacher. But she was great. So yeah, I mean, she wasn't like, she didn't sound like Brenda.
Okay.
She didn't have that kind of accent, but
it was still loud. That person the joke I made to Kim when I saw it was, this is somebody who was never told the difference between an inside voice and an outside voice.
Yes, yeah. She had one voice.
And so
and one self, no public self and private self.
Absolutely.
One self, one voice.
And
yes.
also that thing where everything she said she thought was important, which I thought was kind of an incredible.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, which is real. I mean, that's the difference between playing somebody in a sketch and an actor playing. You understand that this person has complete confidence in everything she says.
Oh, yeah. She loved Ray. She didn't know he was gay. She just thought she had the hottest man ever. I mean, her relationship was so real. Yeah, it was fun to play that.
But again, I mean, that's one of the few times where the confidence never disappears, but there is a confidence in all these characters that you play. And I always... or I've often thought in watching you in movies that part of that is your way of kind of responding to the roles that women of color so often offer, where they don't get to show that kind of confidence, is to show that kind of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and there's, even if it's not necessarily written in there, you can always find moments as an actor, as an artist, to talk with the director and say, hey, do you think maybe in this moment, I remember when we did About Last Night, and that was, my character and Kevin's character, they were incredibly flawed.
Well, actually, that almost takes it back to Mamet's original play, unlike the other movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
you would to see
yes.
that's you're basically playing that character from Sexual Perversity in Chicago.
Yes, yeah, we took it off the David Mamet play. It was much more that.
It was actually that in a way the other movie was not.
Yes,
Everybody
absolutely.
in the other movie is nice except for Elizabeth Perkins.
Yes.
But in this movie, we get to see everybody is kind of out for themselves.
Exactly. And I loved Sexual Perversity in Chicago. It's such a great play. And David Mamet, it's David Mamet, so, it goes without saying. But, in that, and it's there in the writing, and when you read the play, all the subtext is there, which is so great when you have a play or a book, because there's so much that's already there that you don't have to create. But even with Joan, and they're the comic relief in a sense, but you're like, but how do we get people to care about this couple and their relationship as dark and toxic as it is? But you want people to root for them to be together, and so the scene where he takes the girl and she smokes weed. And Joan's a narcissist, and she's like, I'm cuter than she is, right? You know what I mean? Like, everything is just like, but it's
that confidence again.
Yeah, but it's a faux confidence. She does care. They do love each other. I mean, they end up, it's a it's a happily ever after.
Kind of, but they end up together, which may not be the best for both of them.
I know.
That's what you think. Wow.
They probably shouldn't have been together.
Oh no, you think, wow, maybe is this a happy ending? It's a David Mamet happy ending.
Yeah. Well, they loved each other,
and themselves.
I know, Bernie and Joan. Oh boy.
But that she's so constantly talking about herself professionally. It's like she's basically offering her resume in almost every conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Joan, her outer being is so put together, and, but, we know that, but everything for her is emotionally intense. When they're happy, that's intense. When they break up, that's intense. When they, when she sees them, with the girls, and she's like, he's got herpes, that's intense. Like, everything for her is, but then having those quieter moments where you can see why someone would date her or be friends with her or love her, those are the ones you have to find and make sure that you do them in a scene that they can't edit out.
But it's that confidence I was talking about, which I think is really, it's interesting because so often, how best to put this, the roles that women of color are offered are archetypal. And you find a way to make all these things real. And part of that thing with Joan, too, is that thing you were talking about. It's that narcissism where, nobody's better than me. I don't know if I believe it, but if I say it out loud enough, then everybody else will believe it.
Yeah. I mean, and Bernie has it too. So they're kind of like mirrors of each other. You know what I mean? Who are used to kind of being in control. And, when you fall in love, all those things that you say don't matter anymore. Once you're vulnerable to someone, it's such a horrible, wonderful feeling. But it's wonderful when it's going right. But when it goes wrong, it goes left. It's just, well, then you start talking to God more.
Tell me about that. Yeah.
Well, it's emotional. And usually those are, times in your life where you, have the most exponential growth, but they are not easy. Heartbreak isn't easy. Whether it's from whatever, my dog died last year, and I was completely heartbroken.
How old was your dog?
He was 12. He was 11. He was going to be 12 in 2 months. Yeah.
He lived a good long life.
He did. But I was definitely heartbroken. It was deeply heartbreaking.
How do you weather those kinds of things? What do you do?
I do a little crack. No, I'm joking.
I thought you said it was a heroin, not cocaine.
No.
See, I'm confused about your research now.
Research.
Okay.
No, I just weather them. I go and I do my meditation. And actually, I think a month after he passed away, I had to start Hate You Give. And it's crazy because, it looked so awful in the movie when I saw it. I was like, damn, you just saw pain on my face. But it served the character.
It's appropriate for the movie.
Yeah, it was quite appropriate. And so it was kind of like, maybe that was Zeus's gifting to me, his parting gift. But, every thing is different, Sometimes it's good because, I've been heartbroken in relationships and I'm like, oh, good, I'm going to get a job. And then he and his new girlfriend can have to watch that by next year. It's kind of nice to be able to haunt men in film.
How sexual perversive
It's so
Chicago
funny.
of you.
No, it's so funny because I have an ex-boyfriend and he lived right by this one place where they always would put up a billboard. And I loved it. I'd be like, uh-oh, it's going up. It's going up. And you know what? It's great when men love sports because then when they show the trailers during the games, it's like right when they're having a good moment. And then that they have their friends, their guy friends around. And you guys aren't that great at conversation, so the trailer's going to come up and they're going to be like.
You let that go?
Yeah, they won't say it. They'll be like, you want another beer? You think so?
No, black man.
You guys
the black man. You let that go?
Oh, well, that's good, too. Yeah, so that's like, so it's always good when it's doing a game. Because it never, and then, it's got to come on cable, so it's like they got to live with it for a long time. So that was like, actually, that's the best ever.
Oh my God. This is my favorite.
And then if you keep your personal
done.
life private, it's another form of hell because they never know who you're dating. So they're like, I wonder if she's with someone. So then they always think they have a chance. But you as a woman know they don't. Because usually by the time you break up, it's over. But then men take a year to realize, and then they come back, and then they're like, I'm sorry. And then you feel bad because you're like, oh, I wish I still loved him. Like, I wish. But then it's over.
Thank you, black woman. This is the best one of these I've ever done in my entire life. I have to tell you.
But that's not the reason. But it's just a nice. It's
just a benefit.
It's a little perk. It's
yeah. Just you put that you put that in your rider, your emotional rider.
Yeah. So I hope they go see Hate You Give and. Shaft. I get to keep them coming.
Yeah, he's got to go see. They got to go see Shaft.
Yeah,
so this is you working with Malcolm again.
And which one? Which one? Shaft?
Chef, yeah.
No, that is me working with Tim Story again.
Okay, Tim.
Tim Story, who I worked with in Think Like a Man 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I love Tim. Big fan of Tim's too.
But it also was written by the creator of Blackish, though, right?
I said Kenya. Kenya wrote that. He wrote Girls Trip. He wrote Little, which I just did with Issa Rae. So he's written quite a few things. And Barbershop. He wrote Barbershop.
That's right. Did he write for you? Did he bring you into Blackish? Did he tell you he wanted you to do that?
He did originally.
I feel like it was written for you.
Yeah, he did. We've wanted to work together, and I always want to do more episodes. It's just the
You're busy.
time.
You're working.
Yeah, the time is there. But
'Cause it's disappointing to see you like make that kind of entrance in the show and then not be around.
I know. I loved Black Nanny because she was, to my girlfriend who's black, she called me. She's like, I have one too, and it's so hard because I've blurred the lines in the relationship, But she's a great nanny, but my friend felt guilty for things that she had because her nanny would be like, I wish I had some shoes like that, So it was being able to have fun with that, and, I know Anthony and Tracy, everyone on the show. So yeah, it was a really fun thing to pop in, and I loved that they called her Black Nanny.
Yeah, well, Anthony made a point of calling her Black Nanny
Yeah,
all the
he
time,
didn't
which I
know her
loved.
name.
And refused to learn her name.
I know. Yeah.
But again, that's that confidence that she had, because basically in that house nobody has confidence except for the mother and the father, the grandparents, Lawrence, and so Jennifer Lewis. Oh, I love. But to see somebody walk in who completely owns whatever space she's in that, I mean, that feels like it's. He's basically writing to your strengths as an actress.
Yeah. And sometimes you look at stuff and every actor plays it so differently. I mean, I've watched tapes and I've seen the same scene played differently, and I don't know if anybody here is an actor. And sometimes you don't get a part and you go, I wonder why was I not good? And sometimes it's you were great. I mean, I remember I watched a tape for something they were casting and everyone was great. It was just how it fit in with everything else that was going on, and what if their take was necessarily in the same vision. I mean, I have seen people go in and have a completely different take and change people's minds to go, maybe we can go in that direction. But it's not really like about
But that's what you did on Best Man, though. You had
Yeah.
a take that was so different that they end up responding to it.
Well, yeah, they liked the acting part, the dance take, but probably was just, but probably more on Scary Movie where they had a completely different take. But yeah, I think just for artists, sometimes we think that we don't do well, and it's not that. It's just I can give a script to everybody in this room, and they're gonna interpret it. You know what I mean, with what they come with, and there's not a wrong interpretation. It's just
Just what's needed for the material.
yeah, or needed for that person's vision of the material, which is why sometimes you'll see a movie and then it has one director, and then when that director falls out, it gets cast completely differently by a different person. It's that person's take on it, and that's why it's so. So my take on things probably comes from that portion of myself. So it's probably kind of how I start and how I have to work on it. But, I am going to be doing a show. Please watch it. Called Black Monday.
Ooh, tell us about it.
And it's great, I think, even though we've just started. And I have not seen anything.
There's the confidence again.
But it's called Black Monday, and it's set in '86, I think. And it's Wall Street. And
It's that Black Monday when the market crashed.
Oh yeah, when the market crashed. Ironically, because I'm black, you could think. But that was a different Black Monday. But it's Don Cheadle, who I love.
Oh, I know about this.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Andrew Reynolds, who's great. And so we started shooting it, and it's great to be a woman in. It's for me as a black, and the creators are great because she's black. In a white male-dominated world, and she's just as awful.
She's a traitor. She's a bad traitor, just like
head traitor. Well, I would just say that their scruples are different, and it's great to be able to the writers are incredibly. The creators are the two creators. We have black writers on the staff, but the creators are white, and they're so there's little things. They're so easy to talk to. Like, okay, there was a scene with the parents for dinner, and my character is like, because you fucking messed up or whatever. And I said, so I couldn't say that. So for the audience watching, if we curse at our mama, and I was like, so can I start it and then stop it, like catch myself? And they're like, so great. And, the artwork, and it's great because of the clothes. But what's wonderful is, we get to hone it, collaboratively, but what they write is not respective to actually gender or race. Yeah, for her, which is kind of great. And so, and Don's character is crazy. They're all crazy. I mean, they're crazy because it's a dramedy. And it's exciting to be able to be in that time period, even the things we say. And then you realize, like, only thing that sucks is I have to wear pantyhose every day.
And that's bad because as somebody who no longer wears pantyhose, you have to explain that to
Yeah.
me. Why is that bad?
Pantyhose are not
Thank you.
pantyhose are not comfortable.
Okay.
And they're not even that good with shoes. I was like, my shoes are sliding now. I was like, y'all don't do the control top. It's hard. And they run. I think I go through 2-3 pantyhose in a day. Now I'm walking around with nail polish again because they're like trying to stop the run.
Sorry,
Yeah.
what? Nail polish?
Yeah, because if you get a run in your pantyhose, you can put nail polish on it and it'll stop the run from going all the way down.
And now this is the most educational conversation like this I've
No,
ever
it
had.
is. No, my mom always did it, and I mean, I had some too because you don't want to throw a pair of panties. Because if the run, because see, you do it from the foot and then you slide it up, and then some times right here. But if I can put that polish on it and my skirt comes here, I can wear that that pair of hose all day. But if I don't stop the run and then the run gets down here, I gotta throw them away.
I should be taking notes up here.
You know what I mean? Does anybody know? So anyway, that's the only part is the pantyhose. But it's also
aside.
good because I was like, well, it can cover all my little cellulite. So, I was like, women back then, it was great. Well, it's great. You know, sunlight. It's like, I'll be fine at home, and then the sunlight will hit a leg. And I'm like, wait, where'd you come from? So it's kind of good. So, like, in that way, and then the shoulder pads always make my waist look small so I can be like, oh, because it's wide shoulder pads. They're things you don't think of, but they're things that men don't think of. But for us,
No, in the 80s, men were wearing shoulder pads too.
yeah, no, but I mean, you weren't thinking about your waist. Like, I can go to lunch and eat a lot now. I'm in a big old suit jacket and like shoulder pads. So I can kill it now like everybody else. I don't have to worry about it.
If only you were back at Twin Peaks with the fried pickles. But
Oh, wow.
you miss them, don't you?
I do.
They're good. But they fry everything in Texas.
Yeah.
They really do. But you're at a point now where you're going back and forth and going back to filmmakers, to writers who know you and know how to write for you. And that's got to
Yeah.
be really exciting for you, that you got Tim, who's one of the most successful directors of all time.
Yeah.
And you've got Malcolm, who knows you and knows what you can do and will give you different things to do. And you've got now Kenya, who's now part of that group of people.
And producers who are great, too.
Isn't it got to be? I mean, there's also in some ways, a great time because as a person of color in the industry, you now have people who know what you can do rather than trying to write around you. They
Yeah.
can write for you.
Yeah, but I mean, I also like when, like which wasn't written for me at all. It's actually not written for me at all. I like when it's something that's not for me that gives me a chance to, do something.
On Support the Girls, sure.
Yeah, and like this character, this is very different because that's where you get to stretch your muscles. So I'm like, write something that I haven't done, and yeah, I mean, when you're an actor, though, you always think, are you ever going to work again? That never goes away. I mean,
Do you still feel like that? I mean, because you worked pretty steadily for your career.
Oh, yeah, I do. I think, not again, but you're like, I don't know. I don't know. There's always a thing of, well, I don't know. Everything is audience contingent too. You have to have an audience that's still interested in your work and seeing you. So you think, are they going to be like, I don't want to see her no more? I don't know. It's, what, there's like the
Do you have those moments? Do you feel like that?
Well, of course. I mean, I think, yeah, you're a human being. You always have like self-deprecating thoughts of, yeah, I hear my voice and I'm like, is that what I sound like? I don't know how people listen.
What was
Because
it like?
it's not you. It's not.
It's not the way you sound in your head because you don't
so
hear
it's not
that.
the way I look in my head. Like I've looked at stuff and thought I've killed it and been like, oh my God, that shit's not even wounded. That's, let alone dead. So it's how you perceive things. You know what I mean? So, have you ever left your house and you thought your makeup looked good and then you get in the car and the sunlight in the mirror, you're like, wait a minute. I thought, because my bathroom light is low light, so it's so pretty. And so then you get in the real world and you're like, oh, and you got to rethink it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a saying, you never
For
look.
a picture.
No, it's a saying, you never look in the mirror on an airplane. Because that is the worst lighting in the world. You never.
I don't go to the bathroom on an airplane, and I am lobbying for, instead of how they have a bathroom in first and a bathroom
where the
in
rest of us
regular
sit?
seating.
Yeah.
No, I think they don't need that. I think they need male and females bathrooms because you guys get it on the floor, and it's fine because you're standing, but we have to squat, and so. I don't care who. I'll go wherever. I'll walk wherever if it could just be all girls. Do the ladies feel like that? See, I've been trying. I know they're sick of me at LAX, but I keep asking. I was like, who do I talk to? They're like, Regina, sit down. But I think if we all lobby together, it would just, not that the way you go is bad.
No, it didn't sound like a judgment.
No, it's not that it's bad. It's just different because it's a small space. If they could take that space, make it ours, because our knees, we have to squat. You know what I mean? Or you got to put paper down. And if y'all have, sprinkle me manned all over the bathroom, it's hard for us.
I try to stay from the two because I think it's.
Or if you guys sit, maybe we can make it mandatory that men have to sit on the.
Wow, are we out of time already? Because I think we are. We actually are legitimately out of time. So thanks for walking me there. Let's thank Regina.
Thank you, guys.